Whoever designed this room wanted discomfort. The walls angle inward slightly, the ceiling sits lower than it needs to. Most people wouldn't notice, but I've spent enough time in places built to break spirits to recognize the architecture when I see it. Prisons, interrogation chambers, the Netherrealm itself.
I have been in Midgard for years now, and still I do not understand why men build spaces they cannot move freely inside. In Sparta, we trained under open sky. Even the barracks had high ceilings so a warrior could stand fully upright with spear raised. This room would make a Spartan claustrophobic within minutes. Perhaps that is the intention. Discomfort breeds urgency. Short conversations. I would prefer brevity. The sooner this ends, the sooner I can return to my son.
I noticed a shift in your posture when you mentioned him, a softening that contradicts everything else about how you carry yourself. The respirator makes it difficult for others to read me, but I've learned to compensate. Micro-expressions, weight distribution, the way a man's shoulders move when he lies versus when he tells the truth. You've killed God's Kratos. The stories have traveled further than you might imagine, and yet the mention of your boy changes something in your spine, almost gentle. The god killer softened by a child. I find that worth noting.
Children do that, or they did before mine was taken. I remember how my hands changed when I held my son for the first time. The same hands that had crushed windpipes and torn spines became suddenly terrified of their own strength. I held him like he was made of wet paper. My wife laughed at me, said I looked more frightened of the baby than I'd ever looked facing an enemy. She was right. Combat is simple. You win or you die, or you find some middle ground between. Fatherhood offers no such clarity.
Sparta had a solution for that fear. They eliminated it by severing the bond entirely. Boys were taken from mothers at 7 years old, thrown into the agoj, fed barely enough to survive, forced to fight and steal for everything. The theory was that affection weakened the phalanx. A soldier thinking of his wife or child might hesitate at the wrong moment, and hesitation kills the men standing beside you. So they cut the cord early. By the time a Spartan held a weapon in true combat, he had no home to distract him.
Preventing the kind of passion that leads to destruction. Instead, they created men who had never learned to carry love properly. When it arrived anyway, uninstructed, we had no idea how to hold the weight without dropping it.
Shame fills that gap. When they don't teach you how to love, they teach you to be embarrassed by the impulse. I've seen warriors raised that way. All surface hardness, nothing flexible underneath. The first real blow shatters them because they've got no way to absorb impact. A tree that refuses to bend will snap in half when the wind comes. The samurai understood this better. Bushido permitted love, attachment, family. It simply demanded hierarchy. Duty before tenderness. But the tenderness was not shameful. It was expected. A man without a household to protect was considered incomplete, not pure.
And yet the samurai were erased from history just as thoroughly as the Spartans. Their code did not save them. Rome built an empire on severing family bonds, and Rome still burned. Every philosophy that tried to engineer love out of warriors eventually collapsed under the weight of what it denied. I have considered this often since leaving Greece. Whether the flaw was the philosophy or the men carrying it. Perhaps both. My wife Faye believed that strength and tenderness could exist in the same body. Without contradiction, she was stronger than me in ways I did not recognize until she was gone.
I had just choked her in a rage I couldn't control, pledged myself to a master who would own me for the next 20 years, and she looked at the monster I was becoming and insisted the man was still present. I found it pathetic at the time. The naive hope of a woman who couldn't accept what stood in front of her.
My wife said my name. Just my name. Hanzo. Not a message, not a plea, not even a proper farewell. Just the words she had spoken thousands of times across years of marriage, now spoken for the last time while our village burned around us. I have tried to remember exactly how she said it. The breath underneath, the specific music of her voice. I can't. The memory has worn smooth from too much handling. All that remains is the fact that she said it. That I was the last thing on her lips.
She spent her last months hiding messages throughout our home, our land. The path she knew we would travel to scatter her ashes. I found most of them too late to follow properly. She was trying to teach me how to be a father without her. Each message a small correction. Be patient. Let him fail. Tell him about yourself. I had been so focused on teaching Atreus to survive that I forgot to show him what survival was for. She saw my blindness and tried to cure it from beyond her own death.
My children were taken within hours and hidden across the galaxy by people who correctly feared what I might do to them. I believed for 20 years that they had died with their mother. My master encouraged that belief, fed my grief until it calcified into the only structure I knew how to stand inside.
Rage is easier than sorrow. It has direction, purpose. You can point it at something and feel productive. Sorrow just sits there asking questions you can't answer. Why them? Why now? Why wasn't I enough to stop it? The rage drowns out those questions. That's why we reach for it. Not strength, anesthesia.
I burned through an entire pantheon rather than feel what I had done. Zeus, Poseidon, Hades, Ares. Every god who stood in my path became another hour I did not have to look at my hands and see my wife's blood, my daughter's blood. The rage felt like justice, like purpose. It was neither. It was just postponement. And when there was nothing left to kill, when Olympus was rubble and I stood alone with the blade of the gods in my chest, the grief arrived anyway. Larger for having been delayed. I nearly did not survive it. Would not have, if Faye had not found me in that state.
She found you after you had destroyed everything. Interesting. I wonder sometimes if certain people are drawn to wreckage, not to fix it, but to witness it honestly. Everyone else saw me as useful or dangerous. Padme saw someone who might still choose differently. Your Faye saw something similar, I suspect. Not redemption, just possibility. The potential for a next day that looked different from the one before. That kind of sight is rare. Most people cannot look at what we've become without flinching. The ones who don't flinch tend to be either broken themselves or stronger than we can comprehend.
The Shirai Ryu warriors who followed me after my return from the Nether Realm were not innocent men. They had their own wreckage, their own debts they couldn't pay down. They followed a revenant because they understood what it meant to be trapped between worlds. Not quite alive, not quite dead, not quite human anymore. Faye and Padme saw something in you worth witnessing. My students saw something in me worth becoming. That's not love exactly. It's something adjacent. Recognition. The understanding that someone else has been where you've been and survived it.
Faye never asked me to be redeemed. I think this is important. She did not look at my past and demand I make amends or seek forgiveness from the ghosts of those I had wronged. She simply asked me to be present. Today, tomorrow, the next day. She believed the past could not be undone and that obsessing over its correction was another form of avoidance. Another way to not be here, now, with the people who remain. Atreus needed a father, not a penitent. She was right. The guilt served no one. But putting it down was harder than any labor I had ever performed.
My son did. Luke stood in front of the Emperor, watched him try to kill me, and threw away his weapon rather than strike me down. He chose death over becoming what I had become. And in that refusal, he asked me a question I had avoided for 20 years. Whether Anakin Skywalker still existed beneath the suit, whether his mother's faith had been misplaced. I answered it in the only way I had left. I killed my master and I died doing it. Not redemption. Just the first honest act I had performed since putting on the mask.
So we return to the question we were brought here to discuss: whether love makes men weak. I killed for decades because I loved my family and could not accept their absence. You destroyed a galaxy because you loved your wife and could not accept her mortality. Kratos tore down Olympus because he loved his wife and daughter and could not forgive himself for ending them. Love was the engine of all our destruction, and yet love was also what stopped us. Your son's love, Faye's love, the Shirai Ryu, who gave me something to protect instead of avenge. The same force that unmade us eventually remade us.
Love does not make men weak. It makes men capable of great destruction and great repair in equal measure. A blade can protect or kill. The weakness is not in the blade. The weakness is in the man who does not know what he is swinging it toward. I swung blindly for years. The love was always there. The wisdom to carry it properly was not. Faye taught me that, or tried to. I am still learning. Every day with my son.
My son showed me what release looked like. He held his love for me loosely enough that I could choose what to do with it. That space, that permission, was what allowed me to finally act. If he had demanded my redemption, I would have resisted. He simply offered presence, and presence was enough. The suit is a tomb, but his hand on my face as I died was worth every breath this machine forced through my lungs.